Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners agenda setting and work session for July 7th, 2020. And I am John Hutchins, the chair of the board. Also present is Vice Chair Commissioner Ty Menser, and we have the County Manager Ramiro Chavez, and we have the Public Health and Social Services Director Shelley Slaughter, and we have for the first time Dr. Dimiana Abdulmalik. Did I say it right? Abdulmalik, I did. Okay, good. And I don't see who else is on. Ramiro, do you? I don't want to leave people out. Oh, I've got Katie Marino, duh. And who else?
And we have Kurt Harding with us, Jacinda Stilges, Lydia Hutchinson, Jane Manjoy, I can't remember her name, and Tim, only Tim. So I assume it's, yeah.
Good, okay. Thank you. And if you want to join in and listen via conference call, the phone number is 360-252-9020. And with that, we're going to begin with the homeless strategies update. So we'll start with you, Keely.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Keely Marino with Public Health and Social Services, Thurston County's Homeless Prevention and Affordable Housing Coordinator. Just a few brief updates today. One, we've been awarded or will be awarded over $3 million in a new grant, Eviction Rent Assistant Program grant. So that those dollars will have to be spent down by the 31st of October of this year, and it will go towards preventing homelessness by providing rental assistance. 10% of those funds will go towards youth from the Office of ostensibly Community Youth Services will get over $300,000 to do what is appropriate for young adults in terms of eviction prevention. The client eligibility at this point is 50% of area median income. Folks that make 50% of area median income will get access to these funds. And if they pay more than 30% of their income goes towards rent. So those folks will be able to access those dollars. So hopefully we can prevent any increase in unsheltered homelessness in our community with those dollars. That grant is still up for comment. So they're seeking comments this week. We will be turning in our comments tomorrow. And then I believe in August or at the end of July is when those funds will be released. So we are also in the process of drafting our grant for the shelter program grant from Department of Commerce as well. That's a 3-year grant that the county has been awarded $1.3 million to use over the next 3 years to increase our shelter capacity, which includes temporary encampments, hotel vouchers, as well as could go towards tiny homes. But of course, shelter beds and actual shelters absolutely count. So just working on the funds that are coming from Commerce to ensure that we are collaborating with our jurisdictional partners and getting a lot of great feedback from our providers within the homeless crisis response system to ensure that we do our due diligence to make sure those funds are spent appropriately. And that's about it.
Yeah, are those the federal dollars or is that state?
They are the eviction prevention or federal CARES Act dollars.
The federal CARES, okay.
Yes, correct. The shelter program dollars are state.
Okay.
Those were dollars that the governor had allocated pre-COVID, and we were working on a response to that request before COVID hit. And so this is just a continuation of that, or a return to those dollars.
Any questions or comments for Keely? Oh, go ahead, Commissioner.
I missed the very beginning. What was the dollar amount for the this eviction prevention?
Yes, so the total amount is $3,183,179
For Thurston County?
For Thurston County.
And then is it then your office and Tom or county that's going to be administering those dollars and vetting those applicants for 50% median income, 50% spent on rent and all that?
We will be awarding service providers with those dollars to do the actual eviction prevention distribution of funds.
Okay, so gotcha. And then
We'll be managing the contracts. But.
yeah, understood. My other question was about there was a development we got a detailed communication yesterday about the Deschutes Parkway encampment, and that it's being the private property owners, as I understand it, are having the residents leave by July 23rd.
Correct.
And I guess my question for you is, there's some requests in this communication, which is from Just Housing, but is there, what's going to happen? I mean, as Olympia, I mean, we kind of knew that this was coming at some point. Is this date unexpected? Has there been any conversation that you've had with among your team or with Olympia about how to make the situation better than it might be? Are there other answers to this? First of all, have you seen this communication from Just Housing?
I have. I read it this morning.
Okay. And I guess I'll just make it open-ended. What response do you have to it? Is there something that we should be doing that we're not doing to try to deal with this?
So I have spoken, we've definitely spoken with the City of Olympia. We've spoken with Just Housing. We've spoken with the Northwest Justice Project. I actually sat on a meeting to provide kind of a what is the lay of the land in terms of homeless crisis response with with Just Housing and with Carrie Graff from Northwest Justice Project and an individual who's representing the homeowners. And so what had happened is the homeowners did give them an eviction notice, a 72-hour eviction notice about 2 weeks ago. That eviction was stayed due to some scheduling conflicts on the weekend. And then from what I understand, one of the homeowners stepped forward and stated that they'd be willing to have a conversation because they don't want to just kick them out unless there's a place for them to go. But they have a hard and fast line for July 23rd, being that's immovable date for those folks to be moved on. This being private property, the Martin v. Boise decision doesn't hold in terms of having to provide a place for them to move to if they were to be evicted from that property. And so we've had some conversations of what can be done. We're in the middle of a situation where our bed capacity has decreased significantly in our shelter system just due to physical distancing requirements and guidelines around COVID-19. So we're currently working on increasing that capacity with the shelter program dollars that we're getting from Commerce. So some of the thoughts we've been trying to piece together: what do we do for Ensign Road? What do we do for Deschutes Parkway? All located within the City of Olympia. And when there are there's no room at the inn with regards to the shelters that are currently currently operating. We don't have a day center currently. The other unsanctioned encampments are also full, and they're unwilling to take the 50 plus, or in the letter it said 70 plus residents into those other unsanctioned encampments. And so I'm sure that we can come up with a solution, something that can remedy the situation, but we're still in the middle of thinking through that.
One last question. So there seems to be an implication. They mentioned the Martin Carpenter site that the county had identified, and we've been discussing that as potentially a mitigation site. It seemed to be implied by the email, and I'm just wondering if this is consistent with your understanding. If we had that site up and running right now, or if we were able to unveil it tomorrow, theoretically, these folks are. Is there a sense that these folks, in lieu of having anywhere else to go, would would be amenable to being at a mitigation site akin to Olympia's downtown at Martin and Carpenter? I mean, do you have just kind of a sense of that?
I'm sure that there would be some individuals that would opt not to go for whatever reason. I might opt not to go to wherever people are, offering me for whatever personal reasons I have. However, I think that, there are a number of, I don't know the individuals personally, but I would assume that they would be amenable to going somewhere rather than having to sit or sleep in doorways or of businesses or kind of be chased around from place to place. So.
And just so I'm crystal clear, what we're talking about here is that when you come off the bridge and you turn toward the courthouse off to the right, at the bottom of the bluff, there's large encampment. That's the encampment that we're talking about.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, is that it? All right, Keely, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Now we're going to move into the COVID-19 update, and we have Shelley Slaughter, our PHSS director, and I'm very thrilled to have Dr. Demiana Abdelmalik with us for the first time today, our new Thurston County Health Officer. So Shelley, go right ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning. So I'll just start by giving the usual data and then allow Dr. Abdelmalik to add more. In Washington State, as of yesterday, there have been 35,898 confirmed cases of COVID-19, 1,359 deaths. As of yesterday, here in Thurston County, we've had 303 confirmed cases and unfortunately 5 deaths. This last week, we lost another person to COVID-19, a woman in her 80s that was associated with the Olympics West outbreak. This person was a contact of someone that initially tested positive at Olympics West. However, the Olympics West outbreak is considered to be over. Dr. Abdelmalik may have more to add to that. 37 people have been hospitalized. Currently hospitalized, I believe, to be 5 individuals. We have conducted 14,775 tests here in Thurston County, and we have seen that rise. Our weekly testing rate has gone from 2% positive to 3.1%. So we have seen a rise in cases. This last week was the largest week of cases that we have had since this pandemic began. We're also noting that the median age is going down, and we're seeing more and more young people being infected with COVID-19. The median age as of last week was age 34. I'm happy to report that our hospital capacity system has improved since I reported to you last week, and we are currently meeting the occupancy target goal for both COVID and non-COVID beds. So that is good news, and I think that I'll pause there and see if Dr. Abdelmalik has more she would like to share.
Yep, you're muted, Doc.
Good morning, commissioners. I'm thrilled to be here as well. I've been watching the COVID-19 situation since starting on the 1st, and we have seen our cases rise significantly. So last week we had 54 cases. What I've been doing and our team here at PHSS have been doing is trying to look for linkages and why that might be the case. More than 60% of our cases are linked to somebody with either a known positive or is clinically likely to have been positive. And a number of risk factors that we've identified over the past week for people who are contracting COVID-19 include being a part of a private party or a gathering with friends, seems to be a common thread that we're seeing, as well as travel. So, I would just like to, remind all of us and our Thurston County community that it is really important to wear a mask when you're in public and to stay, 6 feet away from people who are outside of your household, as well as the hand washing and cough covering that we've been discussing for some time. We are continuing to reach out to our community and offer these sorts of guidance, just to help all of us kind of mitigate the spread of COVID-19 in our county. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, this is for either Shelley or you, Doctor. And that is, the mean age might be what, 34 you said, Shelley? Yeah, so 34 sounds, people hear that, oh man, that's the average age, 34, that's not a big deal. Give me an example of some of the youngest victims of COVID that we've had.
So I have seen positive cases in children as young as 1. We've seen cases as young as 8. So there are many people are testing positive at all ages and getting sick at all ages.
Didn't we just have one at 4, age of 4, recently?
I don't have that case in front of me, but I believe so.
Okay. I just want people to realize it's not just, middle-aged or 30, 34. I get that, the median. But when you have a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 1-year-old, 4-year-old, and you have an 8-year-old, of course, that's going to smush to the center when you average it out. But teenagers, young teens, and adolescents and children are getting this disease as well. I just don't want that to be missed in a big stat. Any questions or comments for either Shelley or Dr. Diviana?
Yes, I have a question for Shelley.
Who is this?
Edwards.
Oh, well, you sound different.
Yeah, well,
I'm
wearing a mask. That's probably why I sound different.
Well, you're off camera and you're about 30 feet from the camera.
I don't think you could read my lips anyway.
I don't need to read your lips. I just can't see you. I thought you might be a phone caller.
No.
All right, go ahead.
Shelley, on how many tracing people do you have that are doing tracing on these people when they're discovered that they have this problem?
So we have, I believe, 45 people that are trained to do investigation as well as contact tracing. So we have a robust number of people standing by to help us when we need it.
Have we had any reports from the folks doing tracing yet that some of these folks have been associated with any of the riots in downtown Olympia or anything like that, or Tacoma or Seattle?
None of the cases in Thurston County have reported to have been at any large gatherings, such as protests or other events. That is a question that our investigators ask, and we have not had any reports of that.
And how many empty beds do we have up at the hospitals? I mean, like, is there a percentage? I know you wouldn't know the exact amount, but I mean, are we still okay on beds, elective surgery and all considered?
Yes, our hospital capacity as of this morning, it's just at the threshold. So the beds are about 85% occupied. So there is surge capacity in the event that we need it at this time.
And do we have adequate respirators, I guess is what they're referred to?
Ventilators.
Ventilators, yeah.
Yes. Yes, our hospitals currently, they do have many of their vents in use, but we do have ventilator capacity at this time.
And these young people, I realize that they can pass it on, and I guess they get it. They're like a petri dish, but what are the symptoms on these young people?
I'll let Dr. Abdemalik answer that one.
Okay.
So we're seeing a variety of symptoms. So people are ranging from mild symptoms of sore throat, runny nose, some people with fever, to more severe symptoms with the headaches, the muscle aches, chest pain, and severe shortness of breath. There really is in my, so the study that I've done so far has just been a chart review. So it's a broad overview. And there really is variation in what people are experiencing, even within each age group. So in each age group, there are people who are having mild symptoms, of, cough and runny nose and, losing their sense of smell, to very severe symptoms with headaches and the muscle aches and severe fatigue and shortness of breath that we associate with more severe disease.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Anyone? No? Okay. Doctor, welcome. Very nice to have you on board. And Shelley, thank you very kindly. Is that it? That's it. All right, thank you. Now we're going to begin review of the agenda for the BoCC meeting for this afternoon, July 7th. And we'll call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Edwards, approval of the agenda, and approval of the board meeting minutes from June 30th. And then we have an opportunity for the public to address the board as the first thing on the agenda. And Romero, do you have any indications?
No, but I'm sure you probably get some public testimony relating to the your consideration on budget cuts.
Okay. And for those that want to attend and make public comment, you can come into room 280. If there's plenty of people, we have the overflow in room 152 downstairs as well.
I just want to warn Commissioner Edwards that leading the Pledge of Allegiance over Zoom is a little trickier than he may predict. So be ready. Oh, he'll be in the room, so that'll be better.
I'll have a flag.
You'll not be able to attend this afternoon, right?
No, I've done some cancellation on some stuff.
Okay,
So
sure.
I'm good. And thank you very much for the heads up, sir. I recognize it could be a problem.
But I'll have a flag displayed anyway, regardless on the Zoom right here. And then we go to our agenda item number 2, County Manager's Update, following up.
I don't have any specific updates for you today.
Number 3 is the consent items, and the only thing on the agenda at this point for consent is the auditor's voucher list. And I trust my seatmates have already gone through that, as I have. Yeah, was there any questions on the vouchers? No. Commissioners? Nope. Okay. Then department items, agenda item number 4, Public Health and Social Services, is the sole source exception for procurement, water quality monitoring.
Yeah, Commissioners, you reviewed this item last week, and there is a request from Public Health and Social Services Department for you to purchase specific equipment for the water quality division of the department. And the purchase is $13,049. Under normal circumstances, this amount requires a public bidding. But also within the county code, we have an opportunity for the department to make the justification as to why this should be considered as a sole source. So the department submitted an application and a justification to the internal auditor. The internal auditor has reviewed the justification as to why this could be considered a sole source, and the internal auditor has approved for your consideration to waive the bidding requirements of the procurement policy. And this is to purchase a specific equipment for water quality testing. And I believe Jane is available to answer any questions about this item.
Jane, thank you for joining us, our Senior Environmental Health Specialist. Does anybody have any questions of Jane Mountain Joy Venning for this or on this?
Yes, I do have one question, Edwards here. That would be on this usage of this equipment. Can you explain how come, I guess, that we're not able to get it, you know, a bid from several vendors? I'm just curious why.
As you can imagine, it's highly specialized equipment. It's basically both a sense. There's various sensors to monitor different parameters in the water. It's also really a computer that can be immersed in water and be carried in and out of the field. So it's highly specialized. There are other companies that make other equipment that does the same kind of thing, but they're each of them have their own types of sensors that can't be interchanged. So we already have one of this brand of this company's equipment that we're quite happy with. By buying the same type, then we can interchange. If a sensor goes bad in one, we can swap it out. If we bought a different type of a different company's system, we would have we wouldn't be able to do that. So we wouldn't have that swappability in the field. We'd have to do every day before the equipment goes out, it has to be calibrated. So you'd have to do twice as much of that. You have to train staff differently on how to use it. So it ends up being a lot more expensive to get a whole different system.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Jane?
No.
Jane, thank you very kindly.
Thank you.
That takes us to agenda item number 5, Public Works, and this is a resolution declaring an emergency for the Boston Harbor wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, Commissioners, I briefly outlined this item for you last week. As a matter of background, on June 17, 2020, the electrical control at Boston Harbor wastewater treatment plant suffered a catastrophic failure, which necessitated for us to run a manual mode, which has created a lot of extra hours for staff. They have to work 7 days a week. The plan was designed to control automatically, as we can imagine, and this is a risk that if we don't control this, then it will be spillage of wastewater into the sound, and that's what we wanted to avoid. So over the last, this particular element has already been scheduled to be replaced. Unfortunately, the failure occurred prior to the replacement schedule, and that is why we're here to request for you to consider passing an emergency resolution for us to go ahead and purchase this electrical control system. The cost of this is just about $95,000, and this is already covered under the Boston Harbor Utility Fund, and it is not an impact on the general fund. And I believe we have who from Public Works here? Tim. Or maybe, yeah, Tim, if you have any questions.
Commissioner Hutchings,
Yep.
Oh, I thought you might be frozen up there.
Oh, no, I wasn't frozen. I'm frozen in time. I thought Romero was turning it over to Tim. Is there any questions of Tim regarding this project? Because we cannot have raw sewage spilled out into the sound. That's unacceptable. But any questions for Tim? Go ahead, Guy.
My notes from last week's meeting say 50 to 60,000. Was that just because somebody was guesstimating last week?
Yeah,
or?
we were in the process of negotiating the contract itself with the supplier. And the negotiation resulted in just about 95,000, including the additional 10% the department is requesting for you to, is it 10%? Yeah, it includes all the sales tax associated with our purchase as well.
Is this kind of similar to the water quality issue where we've got a particular system and so we need to replace the controls for that system, and we kind of had to go to one source for the parts? Or
Yes, go ahead.
okay,
Is that it? Yes?
I'm good.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut in. I think you wanted to elaborate on that.
Yeah,
Oh, no, that's, good morning, commissioners. That's exactly right. This is a system that there are very few providers for, and that's where we're at.
okay. I apologize for the misstep earlier where you thought I might have been frozen or a commissioner did. I was texting our PIO because your audio was coming in really kind of messed up, Romero. So I wanted him or her to come and take a listen. So
Is my mask or my mask?
no, it's technology. It's just like a satellite's coming over the county or something. But
I can always pull my mask down for a couple of minutes to deliver.
no, it's not the mask. It is not the mask at all. So thank you.
Mr. Chair, Edwards here.
Yes. Okay.
One thing maybe the county manager, he elaborated on the additional cost this was bringing to the taxpayers, but in actuality, we're in a situation where time is of the essence because the longer we wait to get this replaced, the longer we're going to have to be paying overtime to folks to go out there and take care of the situation so we don't contaminate the environment.
Thank you, Commissioners. Right now, we're spending close to 6 to 8 hours a day.
Thank you.
Please stand by. A greater, I think, a greater urge or a greater urgency is not so much the overtime, which is a major factor as we go through these budget discussions, but the likelihood of raw sewage spilling into the sound. That's critical. Go ahead, Romero.
Yeah, that's all I have for you, unless you have additional questions.
Oh, you sound good. No,
Yeah,
thank you very much.
they outfit me with a microphone.
Okay, I saw that. All right, thank you, Tim, very much.
Thank you.
5B, they're setting a public hearing regarding Black Lake Special Use District.
Yeah, this is for your consideration, Commissioners, for you to set a public hearing for July 28th, 2023 in the afternoon in this room. And is also we're going to be exercising this, Zoom meeting, a virtual public hearing as well, to give the public ample opportunity to provide public testimony before you. As a matter of background, the Board of County Commissioners approved the formation of the Black Lake Special Use District back in 2013. And as a result, the board adopted a rate structure for parcels within the district, within the boundary of the districts, which affected residents. Recent quality issues at the lake has resulted in not having the ability, the special use district of Black Lake, to cover the cost to treat this algae bloom on the lake. So you receive a briefing related to this particular matter with the special use district would like to issue a $1.4 million bond on a 20-year period to do the treatment at the lake, and that will create a special assessment that will generate about $103,000 annually. The prosecuting attorney as well as Public Works had looked into this proposal, and they presented to you again a couple of weeks ago and suggesting for you to consider setting the public hearing. To fund the bond, the Black Lake Special Use District, it will be they will affect about 179 lakefront properties that have been determined to receive a benefit of these improvements. The cost of this for these properties on the proposal assessment and the proposed assessment will range between $32 annually to as high as $17,736, and that is the property owned by the Washington State Parks, because that is a big property along the boundaries of this district. But the median cost of all the properties will be overall about $575.42 annually. And Tim can elaborate on additional details related to this proposal. And again, you had a briefing a couple of weeks ago, which members of the Black Lake Special Use District was here. They provided some perspective that perhaps the property owners affected by this additional rate increase are supportive of this proposal. But again, before you can take any legislative action, you need to hear from the public affected by this proposed rates.
Okay. Any questions regarding the setting a public hearing
Yes, sir.
or the Black Lake? Go ahead.
Maybe this would be for Tim. So if we go ahead and move to set a public hearing for later this month, will we also send a notice to the affected property owners on Black Lake about the hearing so that we're sure that we get a good representation of citizens?
Yes, good morning again, commissioners. That letter is in process now. We are preparing that. Should you set the public hearing, that notice will go out to all of the 179 affected parcels and will illustrate what the change would be, what the special assessment would be to their parcel, and also advise them of the upcoming public hearing.
Thank you very much, sir.
Commissioner Menser?
So last week we were talking about, we were really focused on the assessment to the property owners. And this item talks about authorizing the issuance of the bond. Are these to get, I mean, is this all one thing that's going to get public comment on, or is there two separate processes? One, we have to authorize them to issue a bond, and then another, we have to authorize them to assess, to tax their residents to pay for the debt service?
I would pass that on to Elizabeth, who I see is clocking in here, and let her speak to that.
Good morning, Commissioner. Elizabeth Petrich, Deputy Prosecuting Attorney. The process is, in response to Commissioner Mensner's question, it's a two different actions. The big picture is that the district would like to have the Board of County Commissioner authorize a bond to make payments on, so that they can take out a sum of money. But before the bond can be issued, the statute requires that they have in place a system of assessments to pay. So there's two ways that the district raises money. One is rates and charges, which they currently have in place. And the second way is through the assessment process, which is what the hearing is about before you. So the people that issue bonds do not feel like the rates and charges are secure enough, but so you have to so the district has to have the assessments in place. If you approve the assessments and if there are no appeals of the assessments, then the second action, which would happen in a separate action, would be the Board of County Commissioners would make a decision of whether or not they want the bond to be issued.
So why are we having a public hearing on the bond if the predicate step is the assessments, and we have to have a public hearing on that too?
Well, you need a public, the sequence of events is that the assessments there needs to be a public hearing on the assessments first. The board needs to make a decision if they're going to approve those assessments. After that action is taken and is approved, then the second step is the approval of the bond. So the bond doesn't come before the assessments.
I see what you're saying. This is in the same motion.
But that's what we're doing, is setting a hearing on the bond, not the assessment in the agenda.
I don't have the notice that you're looking at, but
Just today's agenda, or today's agenda.
Yeah, today's agenda, and what it says, Elizabeth, is setting the public hearing, the date and the time and the location, to accept and consider public comments on the proposed issuance of a $1.4 million bond with a 20-year term to fund a water quality improvement project in Black Lake as requested by the Board of the Black Lake Special Use District.
okay, so that's That's not what we want to be saying.
Well, I'll work with Tim to revise the motion for this afternoon, commissioners.
Good, thank you.
Commissioner.
Very good.
Edwards
And
here.
go ahead.
Will we be putting in the letter to the affected citizens that there will be no vote by the public on this issue, but it could be voted on by the Board of County Commissioners? Because I guess that's the way I'm taking this, that the public is left out of the vote, but their input, the only way they can get their input in is by the public hearing that we're gonna hold about the topic. Is that right?
I'm having trouble hearing you, but the process is that the public hearing will be about the system of assessments. The public and the people affected should have the opportunity to speak to the board about that. The board will then make a decision, and it's up to the board to decide whether or not to impose the assessments.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry on my audio. I'll take my mask down here. You can hear me better possibly. But my concern is that we let the public know that there's not going to be a public vote on this issue. And because of that, it is ever more important that they make sure that the Board of County Commissioners, who will be representing what we feel the public wants, it would be really important that they participate in this public hearing, because it looks like we're going to be taking an action on our own and the public is not going to be voting on this. So I don't know how we're going to proceed on that to make sure we get adequate public input. I'd like to have the letter at least spell that out to the citizenry.
And the language in the letter will speak to that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
We're talking about hang on just a second, Elizabeth. We're looking at the district, the Black Lake Special Use District. They want to impose this assessment on themselves, but they need to get the county commissioner's approval. So we're not taxing anybody. This is, they want to tax them, or the board wants to tax themselves. And so the members of the public are those within that special use district. That's correct, isn't it? Yes. Okay.
It's up to the board too. It's the board's decision to impose the assessments or not.
The Board of County Commissioners, because there's a board, the district board as well.
Not the district board, the Board of County Commissioners.
No, that's a legislative action, commissioners. Only the Board of County Commissioners can impose fees and charges across the county.
Okay, yeah, right. But maybe what I failed to say was their request. They're requesting us to do that to themselves, to authorize that so they can tax themselves or assess themselves.
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's upon their request because this has not been generated by county staff.
Got it. Thank you.
And also,
Right.
as a matter of clarification, in the event or when you get to the point of authorizing the issuance of the bond of $1.4 million, I just want to make sure the county does not incur any financial obligation behind that bond. If for any reason the special use district is not able to pay the bond, the principal and interest, the county will not be financially liable to back this bond, and that is a key piece of information that you need to have.
Right, we're not co-signing on a loan.
No.
Elizabeth, did you have more?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the affected property owners will have an opportunity to appeal an assessment if the board chooses to assess it. So that is the opportunity for an affected property owner to participate if they're not happy with it.
So if this board, the Board of County Commissioners, approves this, the property owner could appeal to, they would go to court to appeal the decision?
I'd have to double check, but I believe that is the location that they would appeal to.
Okay. Anything else, commissioners? Go ahead,
Yeah,
Jen.
appeal based on what?
On whether the assessment is appropriate for their value, for their property.
So they could say it's too high, or they can't. I mean, if the district voted for it, they'd probably have to pay it. They could just quibble about the amount that was applicable to their, because they're further away from the shore or something.
Right, each property will be assessed, so each property owner has an opportunity to appeal the assessment if they don't think it's appropriate or fair.
I mean, I do have the concern that Commissioner Edwards has about making sure people understand this isn't like Summit Lake, and this is a bit, I trust Brian, I think Wilmowski, who came and he's a member of the board, and he sort of described anecdotally that there hasn't been any like opposition, but they haven't had a formal vote. And the median tax increase that you're describing, that's 4 times more than the proposed courthouse increase, for example. You could build 4 courthouses for the amount of money that we're talking about. So, and we know the kind of, input we got on that. So, so it's substantial, and I want to make sure that the public understands that kind of what Commissioner Hutchings was saying about that we're responding to a request, and the time to let us know if you're not in agreement with your neighbors is at these hearings. So nothing more. I agree with my colleagues on those points.
Following up on what Commissioner Menser just brought up, I just wonder if, Tim, it might be worth your while, so we get a true determination on what these folks are thinking, that possibly during the public testimony period of this in later July, should we vote to set this hearing, it would sure help me a lot if we had a petition of, I don't know, 80, I don't know the percentage, but I mean, these people aren't going to get to vote on it. So if the communities would send a petition around and came back unanimous, well, then there's no question, and maybe there's no question if it's 58%, but it would be nice to know exactly how the public feels this is going to affect them, because I believe it's a beneficial move when it comes to the value of their property, but I'd like to know how the public feels about it, with especially a lot of retired folks maybe on fixed income and such that could be adversely affected.
Tim, that might be a suggestion for the special use district members, because I don't think the county staff can get into lobbying any particular aspects of a quasi vote of the residents, but certainly that's a good idea to share with the special use district management to see if they would like to actually circulate a petition, if they'd like to have a sense of the percentage of supporting this proposal.
Yes, I agree. I'm sorry I didn't articulate that as well as I should have, but thank you for clarifying that. That's what I meant.
I would just add real quickly that there was a resolution passed as well by the board of the special use district late in 2019. And I would assume that resolution is made public to the ratepayers in the area, and that resolution was very specific in what they were attempting to do. So there has been some previous outreach, although we do not have a good sense of, who's in favor and who's not within the district.
All right, good. And I'd like the suggestion, have the special use district do it, not our county staff. So it's like taking a poll before we have any kind of a public vote. But that would be for them to do, not for us. So thank you, Monroe. Good idea. Thank you, Commissioner Edwards. Anything further for Tim or Elizabeth? No? Okay. Thank you both. And that language will change for this afternoon.
Yeah,
just the assessment.
Yeah, I'll work with Tim. So if you can send me a revised language, then that would be great.
Good, thank you. And that takes us to the county manager, takes us to wrapping up the BoCC with wrapping up our commissioner meetings and boards and reviewing our schedule, and that's it. That concludes July 7th. And let's look at July 14th, how busy that looks. Good, let's get, yeah, let's do this, it's still early. We're gonna begin reviewing the Tuesday, July 14th, 2020 Board of County Commissioners agenda. And again, we'll call the meeting to order about 2 o'clock. And we have 2 public hearings that day, and we'll get to those at the end here. We'll call the meeting to order, and Vice Chair Commissioner Menser will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Then we'll do the approval of the agenda and the meeting minutes from today. Then we have the opportunity for the public to address the board. Any county manager's update that might be pending. We'll have consent items for the vouchers for that week. And then we move into department items number 4, the 4A. The first one is franchise agreement with the Zayo Group.
Yeah, and let me walk you through at high level the process in which any franchise agreement can come to you. First of all, it has to be a franchise agreement, an application. The Board of County Commissioners via public hearing will have to approve that application. As a result of that, then the staff getting into negotiations with the particular utility who's seeking a franchise agreement to utilize the county's rights of way. And as a result of that negotiations, they have to come back to you for you to exercise via another public hearing approving the franchise agreement. So in this particular case, as you may recall, you held a public hearing on March 3rd, 2020. That was pursuant RCW 36.55040, where you did not receive any public testimony related to the franchise application. As a result, you follow up with your legislative authority to approve the application of Zayo Group LLC. And this is a telecommunications company. And again, they're planning to utilize the county's right of way to operate their facilities. So staff has gotten into negotiations with the Zayo Group. And this have come to a proposal before you for you to set up public hearing. And as a result of that public hearing, the U may authorize signing a 10-year franchise agreement with the Zayo Group. So those are the steps that needs to be taken. I believe Robin and Megan are here to answer any questions that you may have related to this proposal.
All right, any questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
By any chance, is there any revenue associated with this?
No.
No.
Okay. Oh, Robin, I see Robin on there.
Go ahead, Robin.
Right. No revenue associated with this.
Just as a point of interest for me, I know municipalities do something with utilities that counties are not allowed to do. If we were on an equal playing field, such as the municipalities, would there be revenue then?
I'm not sure. I think that the Zayo Group is a telecommunications and FCC rules. I'd have to check with Grace O'Connor on this, but I believe FCC rules prohibit local jurisdictions from charging telecommunications for franchises.
Okay, good enough, but it will not be any additional cost to the citizens of Thurston County though, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions? Nope, all right, thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 5 for next week, community planning, economic development, setting a public hearing.
This is a follow-up to the interim resolution that you adopted related to the changes on the code to meet the requirements of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, that would be FEMA, related to the floodplain. That ordinance was passed on an emergency basis, and I appreciate the urgency that you took on that, commissioners. And it was an attempt to meet the deadline that FEMA imposed to the county to change some of our code in order to provide the national flood insurance to the citizens affected within the floodplain. As a result of that ordinance, which is the interim ordinance was number 905, again, which is adopted by you on June 16, 2020, require within a certain period of time for you to hold a public hearing before you can enact a permanent changes. As a reminder, the changes included on the interim regulation was technical definitions, clarifications, and rewarding required by the Department of Ecology, indicate records of county needs to retain, add cross references, and add a new section to permit agricultural flood sanctuary structures. And I believe that was addressed on the briefing before you took an action on the interim ordinance. And again, this is a follow-up to that. And for you considerations for you to set a public hearing on August 4, 2020 at 3 in the afternoon. And as a result of the public testimony that you might receive on that day, you may consider adopting a permanent ordinance to meet the requirements of FEMA. Josh is here. If you have any additional questions related to this item.
Is there a question for Josh?
Yes, I have one.
Go ahead.
Is this going to benefit folks? I mean, we're going to come into compliance with federal regulation to obtain flood insurance for the citizens. Is that kind of what we're doing here?
That's correct.
Okay. And so there's not going to be additional cost or restrictions to citizens. It's just going to make a federal flood insurance program available to those should they choose to participate. Is that right?
That is my understanding, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was my only question.
Anything else to add, Josh?
No, other than it's right on. Jeremy Davis, this is he's brought this before you in the past. He is away from the office today, and as the county manager stated, this is the public hearing to discuss the clerical and technical updates. So the citizens already have the flood insurance. This is just making sure the language is updated as FEMA has requested. And the one policy change that is included in this actually provides more flexibility to farmers for that flood sanctuary structure.
Yeah, elevated structure, yeah. That is key on this particular proposal.
Yep. Gotta save livestock. Okay, well, thank you, Jeremy. Moving on to, Josh.
All good.
My apologies. Takes us to item number 6, Public Works.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, for your consideration, Commissioners, for authorized Public Works to issue a call for bids. And this is related to the 2020 overlay program. In a yearly basis, the department comes and asks for the board to authorize issuance the bid process for a yearly overlay program. In this particular year, we're planning to construct a 1.5 miles of 153rd Avenue Southeast from Vale Road to Lawrence Lake Road East. And this project will include grading about 2 inches of existing pavement and overlaying it using a fiber reinforced asphalt. That's a new technology the Public Works is implementing in all the overlays, which is going to be helping in the lifespan of this overlay. The estimated cost of this particular 2020 overlay program is $610,000, and that will be paid by the County Road Fund, which is already included on the 2020 budget. And I believe Teresa Parsons is here from Public Works if you have any particular questions related to this proposal.
Welcome, Teresa. Does anybody have any questions of Teresa?
Yes.
Okay.
I just asked Teresa if she has any idea, if we were to vote in favor of this, how long this might take to accomplish this project in case a citizen was to ask.
I apologize. I don't have that level of detail. I can look it up and find out, but once it's prepped and ready to go, it'll be actually pretty quick. I wouldn't think it would take more than a week to do the actual paving. but then there's striping, there's some prep work ahead of time. I mean, they might be affected about a month.
And do you have any idea about when that might take place? Or if you can't tell me that now, maybe you could get back in touch with me, just in case I get asked by citizens.
Sure, I will do that. It's scheduled to be in August. By the time we bid it, award it, and then get them started, it'll be at least 4 to 6 weeks, probably closer to 6 weeks.
Okay, thank you very much.
But I'll get you details, okay?
Okay, thanks.
That's a good time estimate. Thank you. Anything else, Ty? Nothing? Oh, okay. And that takes us to the end of that agenda. We'll do our typical wrap up. And then we move into a public hearing. We have two. The first one is at 3 o'clock on the 14th, next week, not today. Public hearing for Public Health and Social Services, amending the fiscal 2017 HUD Annual Action Plan.
Yeah, the first item, you will receive public testimony related to changes to the 2017 Urban Housing Development Action Plan. As you may recall, this includes somewhat of a CDBG monies, and we go through a rotation basis. In 2017, the CDBG money was allocated for the City of Lacey to award those contracts they see fit. At that time, they award $69,567 to Community Youth Services to implement a transitional housing rehabilitation program within the City of Lacey. Those activities, unfortunately, have not occurred, and now the City of Lacey has already redirected the same amount of money to the same organization, but in this case is to support the increased emergency shelter operations in response to the COVID-19 at Ross's Place and Heaven House. So this is a very procedural process that we need to do. You need to hold a public hearing every time there's changes on the implementation plan. And there's a fundamental difference between the implementation plan and the actual plan itself. The plan itself is from 2018 and 2022, and you're not revising the plan. This is just the implementation aspect of that, and that is also associated with the next public hearing that you have scheduled for next week. And again, this particular public hearing is for you to receive public testimony related to changing the activities associated with the award the City of Lacey conducted back in 2017. And Jacinda is here to answer any questions related to this proposal.
Jacinda, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Commissioners. No, Romero covered it well, the 2018 to 2022 consolidated plan. There will be no changes to that. We're just asking for amendment to the 2017 annual action plan.
And for the record, will you introduce yourself, please?
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Jacinda Selchis, Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention.
Thank you. Any questions, Commissioners, of Jacinda?
No, sir.
Nope. Okay, good. Thank you, Jacinda, very much. And that wraps up at this point, the BoCC meeting for July 14, 2020.
Would you like me to give you a perspective on the next public hearing, Commissioner?
Oh, yeah, but I thought you rolled them in together. Go right ahead.
No, the other is similar to the previous one, but in this case, you will be holding public hearing for you to receive public testimony for the 2020 annual action plan, which is aligned to the 2018-2020 consolidated plan, two different aspects. And again, this is for you to consider testimony to award grants to specific groups. And again, the 2020 cycle is the City of Lacey, again, is the one who receives on a rotation basis. Just as a reminder, when the CDBG dollars, we have an interlocal agreement where we rotate on a yearly basis, where the City of Lacey takes 1 year, the City of Tumwater, I believe, is next year, and then the county, along with the south cities of the county, meets and determines how the CDBG money distribution should be on a yearly basis. So that's the rotation aspect that I mentioned to you. And again, the 2020 is the City of Lacey has been going through the process in awarding this contract. And right now, they have allocated to the Boys and Girls Club of Lacey, the City of Lacey Veterans Service Hub, Thurston County Food Bank, the Garden Raised Bounty, Victory Farm, the South Puget Sound Habitat for Humanity, the Critical Home Repairs, Home First, Affordable Lacey Rental Homes, the Child Care Action Council, Early Learning, also the Low Income Housing Institute, the Fleetwood Apartment Renovation, South Sound Habitat for Humanity, the Doya Vista Phase 6, and Home First, Affordable Rental Homes. The total cumulative awards, which includes the CDBG money as well as the home funding, is $2,174,663, and that will be for the 2020 action plan. And again, Jacinda is here to answer any particular questions related to this proposal.
Jacinda, do you have anything to add to Romero's presentation?
I don't.
Okay, commissioners, any questions?
No.
No? Okay. Jacinda, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
That concludes the 14th of July. And before we get into all the other stuff, let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break. I have 10:05. Let's come back at 10:15. Thank you.
You're live, Commissioner.
Am I starting in with Board of Health?
You're gonna go Commissioner Menser, the Board of Health.
Okay,
Ready to go.
Are we waiting for a countdown or we're on?
You're on.
Okay, great. So we're back to our Board of County Commissioners agenda setting meeting here on July 7th. And after the break, we're going to review the Board of Health proposed agenda for Tuesday, July 14th, which is next Tuesday. We're going to resume our monthly Board of Health meetings, which have been canceled for a couple of weeks. It'll be a similar format to what we're doing for our afternoon Board of County Commissioner meetings. I expect it to be a hybrid of Zoom and live. So we will start at 3:30 with a called meeting to order, approval of the agenda, a review of the meeting minutes from March 10th, and then we will move into item number 2, which is a introduction of our new Thurston County Health Officer, Dr. Dimiana Abdelmalik, which I know she is willing to go by Dr. A, as I've been told. So is her last name something of a mouthful, but I actually like saying it. But anyway, I'm going to turn this to Shelley, our Director of Public Health and Social Services, just to preview this item for us.
Good morning, Commissioners. Shelley Slaughter, Director of Thurston County Public Health and Social Services, and in this capacity, Administrator of the Board of Health. And yes, essentially this item will be Dr. Abdelmalik's first Board of Health meeting, and she would like the opportunity to address the board, and we'll just welcome her and provide an overview again of her background and her first couple weeks on the job.
Shelley, can you, okay, well, this is a good segue. So any questions for Shelley about that item? I don't hear it.
Yes, could I?
Okay. Mr. Edwards.
Shelley, could you, Commissioner Menser said that she could be referred to as Dr. A. Was that prior to the meeting? I didn't catch all of that because I just wonder if that wouldn't be kind of simpler for a lot of folks, you know, right off the bat, kind of break the ice, set you, if she was to say that, if that's the case.
Yes, she has shared that she's often referred to as Dr. A, and she's perfectly happy being addressed as such. So I'm sure she'll share that with the board.
Okay, no, I think that's great. Thank you, Commissioner Menser, for bringing that up.
Sure, Commissioner Hutchins.
during her introduction, will you be going then through her CV or her resume?
Yes, I will review her bio again.
Thank you, because it's quite impressive. And I want the public to know that. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is opportunity for the public to address the board. And I meant to ask Shelley before we even started, but this is a good opportunity. Whether or not I know you and I talked about having this be a Zoom only meeting versus a hybrid meeting. And I'm not sure where we landed on that. Are we going to have an opportunity for the public to address the board, or are we going to make this something different?
I believe our discussion, Commissioner Menser, was that this first Board of Health meeting would be a Zoom only meeting, but of course that's the board's discretion.
Does the board, I guess, do my seatmates have anything to weigh in on that? And if we are going to do Zoom, I guess we would want to eliminate that line item. We're not going to have public comment. Or Ramiro, what's your take on this?
Yeah, if you're planning to have us only Zoom meeting, sorry.
Can you hear me better?
Yep.
Yep, sorry. If you're considering having only a Zoom virtual meeting, I recommend for you to remove the public testimony aspect. But if it's a hybrid, we're ready for you to take public testimony if you consider to have a hybrid.
Any input on that from my seatmates?
Yes.
Yeah. Commissioner Edwards.
My preference would be, as uncomfortable as it is to do the hybrid, I do think it's a step towards a more open government than a total Zoom. So I guess I'd like to hear why we couldn't do the hybrid. I mean, everybody could be participating the way we have been today. Is there any particular reason that you would not want to do the hybrid?
I agree to do a hybrid. It's more transparent unless something happens in the next week or 2 weeks or month with such a surge or a spike where everything shuts down again. I'm okay with doing a hybrid.
I think the main difference is whether or not we have the sort of invitation out there for the public to come. We don't often have public comment at Board of Health, but we do sometimes. I guess I'll leave it to Shelley if you want to weigh in with any considerations we're not thinking about. I could go either way on it.
I don't have anything else to add to that conversation.
Yeah, in terms of the logistics, I will be sitting here in room 280, and I will help manage the public testimony if that is your pleasure.
Okay. Well, it's going to follow a board meeting, so we're already going to be set up and oriented. So that's fine with me. We'll just proceed along the same lines as the board meeting.
Perfect.
Based on the direction I'm getting from. Okay, so that takes care of number 3. We have a consent item, which is work session notes. And have those been distributed to the board yet? Or they're attached to this agenda?
They should be in your packet of information.
Okay.
If you don't see those, I'll ensure that you receive them.
Okay. Questions on that item?
Yes, I guess I'm looking for those notes now. You say they're in here now?
No, they should be, I think, but they're not.
They should be. If you do not have them, I will work with Lydia to ensure that you receive a copy of those right away.
Okay, that's coming up then. Good.
Okay, next item would be department item 5 on the proposed agenda. It's described as integrated pest management prescriptions, Blue Lake variable leaf milfoil, and European colt's foot. And Paula Cracknell is listed, but I don't see her on the line. Do we have who would be entered? I know we talked a little bit about this last week. Go ahead, Shelley.
Yes, it will be Ms. Cracknell that is presenting that item to you, but I can provide a brief overview, and then at agenda setting next week, I can ensure that she's there if you have additional questions that I'm not able to answer today. But I can jump in and just kind of describe a little bit of the background on this.
I'd appreciate that. There's been a lot coming the last week or two, and I could use a refresher.
Sure. So within your packet, you should have information regarding this item. There's multiple pages and some nice graphics. But on a high level, the Board of Health is responsible for approving the Integrated Pest Management Program as recommended by a committee. And the pest and vegetation problem in this area has been assessed, and it's been determined that control is needed and the use of pesticide is necessary, and the risk to public health, groundwater, and the environment is determined to be minimal. And this has been reviewed by our Environmental Health Division, and they are recommending that the integrated pest management prescriptions be approved by the Board of Health.
I have
Mr. Hutchins.
a couple questions, Shelley. Number one, where is this going to be widespread application, or where is it going to be applied? Do we know yet?
I am looking for that information myself to see if it describes. I only see Blue Lake as where this will be applied, but I can get further information from staff on that.
I don't know where Blue Lake is.
I do not either, sir.
Okay. And then the other question is, you said the risk to the environmental health weighed in on it, that the risk to humans or water, groundwater and such is minimal. I don't know how we define minimal or who defines minimal, but does that have to be run by Department of Health or just, I mean, at state level or just the county?
This is just the county level, although our staff use and advise on.
I meant ecology. I'm sorry, not Department of Health, Department of Ecology. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Our staff use the latest evidence and science to make these recommendations and have the expertise to do so. In fact, they kind of lead the way nationally in this area, and the Board of Health does have the authority to approve this because it is local impact.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
What does the state of Washington allow? I just thinking, you know, Department of Ecology is kind of not to downplay the ability of our own staff, but I want to make sure that we're in compliance with what the state of Washington does as well, or even surrounding jurisdictions. I'd like to make sure that we end up with similar information that other entities would have. So do you know the answers to that now?
I do not have the specific answers to those questions, but I can assure you that we are in compliance with state of Washington standards.
And when would this application take place and where? I guess kind of a follow-up on Commissioner Hutchings' question, that the when and where.
I think that your questions, sir, are best answered by our staff experts, and I apologize they're not with us today. This item was not on our radar as on the agenda this morning until recently, so I apologize, and I will have them present next Tuesday to answer those questions, and before then can send you additional information and also review the packet of materials.
Are we in a time crunch here that we're kind of putting this out and maybe you don't know as much? I know you folks have been terribly busy on this whole virus thing, so I'm not being critical. I just want to know as much as I can before we take some type of an action. So are we under a time frame here that has to be applied certain time, certain place?
Yes, I believe so. You typically do review, as the Board of Health, the integrated pest management prescriptions for the year each summer, because that is typically, there is a time sensitivity to the application of the pesticide to properly control, the vegetation. So that was requested by staff to be heard as soon as possible, and July was our soonest meeting.
I guess I'm going to have to say that these meetings are public, you know, that we're having, and we've got public input coming up. So I just hate to do anything that looks like we're hiding something from the public. I know that's not the intent of staff or yourself, but with this limited amount of information, yes, we're going to be given some information, but again, it sounds like the public is going to be left out of this sensitive information. So I'm a little gun shy about moving ahead without having some exposure to public critique. And I'm not seeing that we're getting adequate public critique here by moving ahead with only the commissioners hearing what this is about, where it's going to go, time frame and such. So maybe I'm a little oversensitive. I'll hear what my other seatmates have to say about that, I guess.
Well, whether you're oversensitive or not, I don't know. That'd be a self-judgment. I think it's kind of funny. You're Commissioner Edwards. You're deferring to the state as experts now in this arena, and but I agree that it'd be nice to get the information so we had it and we could discuss it in an open way. But we don't even have all the information yet. I'm sensitive to the fact that there's a time crunch that we're getting into the warmer weather when it needs to be applied, so it has a positive impact on what they're trying to achieve. But I would like the public to know, so the public has a chance to vet this information as well. And maybe we'll get more information than we currently have.
I think we did have a prior presentation from Paula, and I do remember, I don't have the color slides here, but I remember I did see them. At the same time, my recollection is quite fuzzy, but I know the way my brain works, and that usually means I didn't see a problem. And if I don't see a problem, my brain does not retain a lot of detail. And if I do see a problem, I'll flag it, and it'll be a pile on my desk. So the fact that I barely remember this means I think that it was adequately explained and presented, but that's just me. And Paula, you say will be here at the meeting next week?
Yes, she will. And if we need to defer the item to a future Board of Health meeting after you hear from her next week, then we can get information from staff as to what the impact of timing might be on that if it's desired to have more time to share this information with the public. I do know also that there is public participation on the committees that advise on our integrated management test plan. So
that was actually my question. You alluded at the beginning of your presentation to a recommended by a committee, and I wondered if you could elaborate on what that committee is, how it fits into the scheme.
I do not know what the exact composition of the committee is, but that information we can have staff share more about how the public is engaged and the outreach that is done prior to application of anything that impacts residents of Thurston County that reside around these areas. And I will say I read my materials a little more carefully, and it is not Blue Lake. The reason why we don't know where Blue Lake is because there's not Blue Lake in Thurston County. That is the type of that is the type of noxious weed that we are trying to address. It is happened to be called Blue Lake. So
I don't want to look like I didn't know where a lake was, but that's what I do. Blue Lake, it's not. Ramiro.
Thank you. I was going to provide that clarification because the board of health may not be approving an application. What you're going to be considering approving is approving a prescription. So it's a little bit different steps. What you do is you consider all the elements by this advisory committee, which is formed by citizens who have the chemistry background that provides you with the best possible information. So when they see requests as to how they need to treat a specific algae or any type of weed, then they need to develop on a specific prescription. And that is what is before you in this particular item. You're approving a prescription. You're not approving an application. So it's two different steps on this. I just want to clarify that because it was not a Blue Lake, is a Blue Lake variable leaf milfoil. That's the full name. So you considering approving the application of those two weeds.
Commissioner Menser, could I follow up on that?
Yes, sir.
Possibly the county manager or Shelley could refresh my memory, I guess the best way to put it. When did we have a briefing on this so I can refer to my notes from that briefing possibly?
Your last briefing on prescription of this nature, I believe, was last August.
Holy mackerel. Okay, that's why that's why I'm not bringing it up in my computer bank. It's outdated. So I'm going to need a little help on this. Gosh darn it, I hate to move forward when I don't know enough, and I don't know enough about this particular topic. I'm sure your staff is conscientious on what they're doing, but I still need to know.
Of course.
We didn't have a discussion on this before. It wasn't last August. We talked about this particular item in the last couple weeks. I'm not seeing any notes in my notepad, but I'm certain.
That's what I'm looking for. County manager, can you enlighten us or something on this?
I can give you a date, but what we can probably do is bring all the information that you're requesting for next week And after that, you don't feel that you're in the position to take an action, the item can be deferred. So just because this item is up for consideration, you're not bound to take an action. So if you see there is any additional information based on the staff's presentation next week, certainly you can delay or defer the item if that is the pleasure of the board.
I would want to do that because the other piece of information we don't have today is what the consequence is of a delay. So, you know, without that piece of missing information, I don't want to remove it from the agenda because it may be that there is a time sensitivity that will decide the question. But
and that was what Romero said was my suggestion. Knowing there's a review committee composed of or comprised of citizens that are well versed in this this topic, and chemists and such, alchemists. I'm okay with just receiving it the day of.
I didn't say alchemist.
Yeah. and asking questions, and then if I'm not comfortable, I won't vote for it. But if I am, then I'm ready to move on.
okay, that sounds like a consensus then. We'll address this, but just let Paula know that, you know, kind of Shelley, maybe you can let her know the checklist of questions we had about it.
I certainly will, and I apologize for not being more prepared to discuss this item today.
Okay, number 6 is a COVID-19 update, and I think we know what that's going to be about, and we've had a chance to ask questions about COVID-19 earlier in today's meeting. So I think I'll move along to Board of Health members related activities. Item 8 is Health Officer's Report, and Dr. A has been knee-deep in it since the 1st of July, so I'm sure she will have items that she'll want to report on. And then your report, Shelley, will be the last item. Any questions on those items?
No, sir.
Okay. That's it for July 14th, Board of Health. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now we're moving right into advisory boards and commissions.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Amy Davis, Acting Clerk of the Board. In your packet this morning, we have 2 applications for the EMS Council.
It's a bit difficult to hear.
Hopefully this is better.
That's better. Thank you.
This morning in your packet, there are 2 applications for the EMS Council. Both are for reappointment and both are for citizen at large positions. First is Sheila Fay, who has served for 2 years. She's a surgeon. And then Paul First, who is completing his 2nd term. Paul is the West Region EMS and Trauma Care Council representative.
Are we okay for comment on that, Mr. Chair?
No, I was waiting to hear. Was there anything more, Amy, or is that you're done?
That is it for your discussion.
Okay. One question I have just real briefly, Gary, and that is, I see that we redact information, personal information, but we leave their phone numbers. That's not something we redact.
I will confirm that we redact all of their personal information.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards, go ahead, sir.
I guess I would just like to point out that I work with both of these individuals on the EMS Council, and although I don't remember it being brought up as a nomination issue per se, I can tell you they're both very active in participating so that we provide the best service to the community, and I would ask that we approve these individuals.
Commissioner Menser, any questions or comments?
I just always like to know, I mean, there's no pending applicant. Obviously, we would know if there were pending applicants for are they coming up for, I assume their slots are coming up for, their term is over, whatnot, and they're asking for re-upping and we don't have any applicants in the queue?
Correct.
Okay. Well, they look very qualified, and if Commissioner Edwards say they're active and engaged, then I don't have any problem reappointing them.
Yeah, I'm right on board with that too. Looking at their qualifications and the recommendation from Commissioner Edwards. So that's fine with me.
So would you like to have those items on today's agenda or next week's agenda?
Yeah, it's Adam today. That's all right with my seatmate.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, so, okay, we'll bring these items for your consideration this afternoon.
And is that it for boards and commissions?
Yes.
Good, thank you, Amy. Proclamations and awards, there's no proclamations or awards. I skipped over that. And now we're gonna get to our PIO check-in.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. I've onboarded Megan Johnson. She's the new PIO dedicated to COVID response and recovery. I'll continue to oversee her work, but we'll be back here most of the time. I won't need to be at the ECC as much. So I'll still be involved in COVID response, but we'll also be here focusing more on a regular job. I'm working with Grace O'Connor and Robin Campbell and the other jurisdictions on continuing to move forward the Comcast franchise agreement. So a new draft is with Comcast for consideration. So hopefully we can get that wrapped up fairly soon. One of the RCWs have been updated to allow for e-signatures. So I'm going to be working with a small group on a policy around e-signatures, considering the world that we live in now. It's so virtual. It's a good thing for us to get a policy and procedure around so we can start implementing e-signatures. And then lastly, I'm working with Jenica Machado and Robin Campbell on a response to questions that we're getting about the WMCOP Aviation Commission project for the potential airport in South County. And so we'll have that available by the end of today for any of the questions that you're getting. That it'll give people a contact at DOT where they can submit comments. So it'll have a little bit more information for them so that they can address those questions and comments towards the correct agency.
The airport has proved to outstrip North Point as the least popular proposal ever in Thurston County.
Wow.
I don't know, the courthouse is in there pretty close.
Good gravy. And it's not even our issue.
Yeah.
So you broke up just a little bit, Megan. Word is going to get out publicly then to the right, direct people to the director, to the right agency.
Well, I'm developing an email response because we have so many emails that we're getting about that, so that we'll be able to respond to those emails and direct them to the correct place. I'm not opposed to putting something out on our social media or potentially even on our homepage that directs people to the correct place to send their comments and questions.
Well, for discussion, is it worth a press release? Because it's been in the paper and it's been on the news, on television. Is it worth putting something out that we are not? Maybe not. I'm just answering my own question now, but just make sure the word gets out to everybody. Don't be in a panic or a fear that the BoCC is putting a SeaTac in their backyard. We're not.
Where, as I was hoping to address this on the public testimony part of the agenda, but this is very timely. I'd just like to inform the public, although we have received a lot of emails related to this proposal, the board had a discussion 3 weeks ago, and the Board of County Commissioners decided not to take a position on this proposal. And that's where we stand right now, and I believe the Board of County Commissioners is not planning to take any additional position related to this item in the future.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I want to clarify two things about that, because I've been getting emails questioning when you say, Ramiro, decided not to take a position. That's a little more clarification is needed, because we were not asked to take a positive or negative position. We were asked whether we wanted to take an affirmative position to be on the list of final 6, and we decided not to do that. We were not asked to weigh in with a no. We never. I mean, that wasn't part of the ask. So people are feeling like the board was trying to hedge or something, which really I don't think is accurate. You have to kind of know what we were asked and then how we responded.
Yeah, and
I'm trying to clarify that for people.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I gave a TV interview on Q13 or Cairo 7, I guess it's called, and it was basically a 15-minute interview where I explained what we did. And when I saw what was put on TV, they pulled two snippets that looked the most like the issue hadn't been decided, because they had already clearly decided to do an article on, or a story on, Thurston County is going to be the next CTAC. So they pulled 2 quotes that I had that made it sound the most like it was still in play from the board's perspective. They completely ignored the other 10 minutes where I was saying that we didn't, we were concerned, we didn't have enough community input, we voted not to, none of that was in there. So I want the public to understand that I don't think those quotes were representative of my interview with Cairo 7. And I've done a couple of other radio and newspaper interviews, which I thought were better. There was Lewis County Chronicle was a more accurate representation of my comments on the issue. But I'm getting a lot of emails wondering if us taking no position was somehow trying to leave a ball in the air or something. And it was just, to me, it's very important that people understand. We were asked whether we wanted to be placed on the final 6, and we voted not to do that.
And that is a good point, Commissioners. Thank you. I believe the actual request from the State Department of Transportation, whether the Board of County Commissioners wants to be listed as a sponsor of this particular location. And that is where you didn't take an action on that. But you're right, it was the simple request, it was the specific request where the Board of County Commissioners would like to be listed as a sponsor of this particular location.
Anything else, Commissioner Edwards?
Not on that topic, sir.
Okay. Wow.
Ty got it right. Ty said he laid it out perfectly.
Yeah, thank you. And that was good, thank you. But we're still talking with Megan and I almost forgot. Megan is Megan Johnson. She's a new employee.
Yes, she started 2 weeks ago, I believe, maybe 3.
Okay, and she's dedicated to the EOC?
She's dedicated to public health COVID-19 response.
Okay, public health. Yes. And is she every bit as cool as this Megan that we're talking with now?
I don't know. It's pretty hard to be.
Okay.
Yeah, she's great. She's doing a really good job. She's catching on really quick, and she's doing.
Yeah, she better. All right. Any from my seatmates, any questions or comments for Megan?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I don't know. Last week, maybe the week before, we were talking about reductions in non-departmental budget to help our ending fund balance. And I brought up the possibility, I just want to point that out, the possibility of, at least for discussion, we're talking about well over $250,000 that goes to TCTV as part of our outreach, I think is the best way to put it, to the public, to let them know what we're doing. And my question at that time was, could we obtain that same outreach through YouTube, which is relatively inexpensive? I don't know all the dollar amounts, but I'm just wondering, I still don't know if the sky is falling or not when it comes to our budget situation that we find ourselves in, but I know we've got over 1,000 employees working for the county, and they're on edge about what type of operation or reduction we might make in the budget. So I'm still looking in all areas where we could have savings that impact the general fund, especially, but the total budget as well. And so I'm still in question about, is that a possibility of a budgetary savings? And I guess I know we're going to have further discussion on this possibly at a later date, but is there anything that we could be enlightened on by our PIO folks about, is there a savings to be had if we did something besides what we're doing today? So is YouTube an alternative? Could we continue to keep the public informed about our activities? If we
let's get the answer.
Did away with that budgetary hit. And I'm nothing against TCTV, I just want to discuss it. Can we save the taxpayers money by doing something else? And is that something else possibly YouTube? Because we do YouTube broadcasts somehow. So, I mean, that's from a novice that knows not much about your job, Megan. And I wonder if you could help me out, or maybe Robin, I don't know who I addressed this to, but your time is up. You're on the hot seat right now, so I don't know if I'm asking at the right time or not, but I'd like to know some answers to that, or at least be told, no, we're going to discuss that further in this other location, or something like that. Just asking a question.
Let me start with Robin. Do you have an answer to that?
We're working together. Megan and I are working together, and we'll have a briefing for the board soon.
Good.
Okay. I guess that answers the question. You're off the hot seat then for a few minutes, Megan.
And just to elaborate on the.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Just to elaborate on the upcoming briefing, I understand Commissioner Edwards' objective, but the issue is broader that you need to consider. It is associated with the Comcast franchise agreement. It is associated with the PEG dollars that we have, and associated with their contribution, which is a specific needs as to how that money can be spent. So it's not purely general fund money, it's PEG dollars. And also how that Comcast franchise agreement has a relation with TC Media. And all that needs to have, you need to have a conversation, a broad conversation as to how you like to move forward in TC Media or the PEG dollars in association with the Comcast franchise agreement, because all that is interrelated. Although that is located on the non-departmental, but it's not purely general fund money. So we have to be careful that is what we call this PEG dollars as to how that the specific purpose.
It also has a intergovernmental aspect that needs to be considered.
Okay.
It's a complicated topic.
But we'll have a briefing on that coming up. Okay, thank you. Legislative updates?
Yeah, we continue to engage the legislative delegation here in the county. Commissioner Hutchins and Deborah Manguia and myself met with Representative Urquhart yesterday. And just again to continue to express our perspective in terms of how they can help during our potential special session that might be called this year. So that's all I have for you.
Okay. Briefing, public hearing, decisions pending?
Yeah, you have, you heard a presentation, a briefing related to the human resources rates, as well as the cost allocation plan by financial services. And there is a decision pending for you today. And again, you're not deciding on the rates. We are given direction to include those rates on the budget, on the proposed budget that you will be considering. in the fall as part of the 2021 and 2022 budget. You heard related to 3 funds from Human Resources. The Human Resources manages the Unemployment Fund, the Benefits Fund, as well as the Risk Fund. And each one of those has a little bit of an increase. The Unemployment Fund has a proposed increase of, is that right, 0.3% from the current rate?
Romero?
Okay, go ahead.
That's actually that's not an increase. That's the same rate we've been charging for a number of years. So I just wanted to clarify.
Okay, thank you. And also the Benefits Fund, I believe, that one has no increases in 2020, but it has an increase in 2020, 2021, no increases, but increases on 2022. Is that correct?
That's correct. And the reason it appears to be a steep increase is in 2018, the board approved a reduction in rates because the fund balance had gotten too high. And so we started to charge less in order to get the fund balance down. So now in 2022, we would be going to what we should be charging. So it's not really an increase, it's just people have been getting a reduced rate.
Okay. And the last one you heard a briefing on was the Risk Fund, and they proposes a decrease on the rates for 2020 and 2021 for just about 3%. And also, lastly, you heard from Financial Services, the cost allocation plan is where the general fund builds other funds across the county to compensate for the services, for some services that we provide countywide as part of the cost allocation plan. And again, the decision that we would like for you today to be guidance to include those rates as part of the 2021-2022 budget. And that decision will occur later in the year when you look at all of the proposals related to the upcoming biennial budget.
Okay, any questions of Romero or of Maria regarding this? None. Thank you, Maria.
So do I hear approval to include those rates on the proposed biennial budget?
I do. Looking for thumbs up or down?
Yeah, some sort of acknowledgement.
Okay.
Okay.
There's 2.
Okay, 3, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now we're going to get into the commissioner items.
So I have only one item for you today, and also I like to be respectful of the upcoming 2 executive sessions. Particularly the last one requires probably some time for you to discuss. So on item number 1, I'd just like to bring to your attention, and you received this letter dated June 26, 2020, from Secretary Stephen Sinclair. He is the Secretary for the Department of Corrections. And in this particular letter, he has stated my words, perhaps he's surprised and dissatisfaction of the board not including on the docket the revisions for the Maple Lane land use. And that item you discussed at length, and then again, the board did not include that item as part of the 2020-2021 docket. And again, this letter goes on and saying that the Secretary of Corrections would like to have a meeting with you to explain at least his position. Anyways, and I just want to bring this to your attention. If you like for me to organize a Zoom meeting, we'll be more than happy to do so. But again, just to remind you that If there's any additional consideration to this item, you have to bring back next year.
Yeah, I read this letter when it came in a week ago, and I would imagine the DOC is disappointed. And but I don't know how to take the after what they perceived as a strong partnership. I don't know if that meant relationship or partnership on this issue, or exactly what was meant by that. But we have a strong relationship and a positive one, and not just acquiesce. If they would like to speak to the board, or if the secretary would, I'm okay with that. That doesn't, there's no more information I need, and I don't envision changing my mind, but if my seatmates would like to engage with DOC, that's fine with me.
I have a comment. If I didn't see Commissioner Mentzer's hand up, so I'm
jump in.
Okay.
I don't see yours either.
If we do have a meeting, I don't know how important the meeting is and how timely it would be, but I would certainly rather have a meeting rather than a Zoom meeting. It would be a public meeting with the three of us present, or anytime there's two of us present at a meeting. So I'd like to make that available to the public, and I'm not crazy about a Zoom meeting unless there's some big rush. As the county manager pointed out, we're probably not going to be doing anything on this year anyway, but hopefully we're going to be over this COVID issue enough that we can start meeting in public, so we can allow the public to participate in those meetings in something other than Zoom. So that's kind of where I'm at on it. I have no problem one way or the other. I'd just like to do it when we don't have to have a Zoom meeting.
Well, what I understood was an open meeting so the public can hear, but I'm not interested in a public hearing where we have people come in and testify. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, or just the mere fact that we've kind of shut down public access during this whole COVID thing, and it might be more perception than anything else. So people that are techie folks, they probably are able to participate, and maybe those that aren't are missing out. I don't know the answer to that. I'm just thinking that this became a bit of a hot topic down around the Grand Mound area. I did receive input on it, and I just don't like doing business anytime it looks like we're doing it in the back room. And I know that's not what we're doing. We're always striving to make our meetings as public as possible, but that's all I'm saying about getting away from the Zoom thing. I think the public has the perception they're being left out.
So see if I understand your suggestion is to wait until the board can meet in person in this room?
I would prefer that if we're gonna,
so now I'm trying to clarify what you
if we're going to have that meeting, I would.
And in trying to clarify, because the Zoom meetings as we have it right now is given to the public, and we'll continue to have the Zoom meetings even if the board meets in person. Mm-hmm. So, but I think what you're asking is you will prefer to have this meeting in person in this room. Is that?
That's what I would prefer, and even maybe have the meeting off campus down around Grand Mound or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that would just generate more issues, trying to get people limited out in a large setting or a large group like that. Everything we do, even our BoCC meetings, are YouTube. They're on TCM. People can join in on the phone or watch. They're live streamed. I understand the concern that my seatmate has, but we're still transparent. We're still open. Go ahead, Commissioner Menser.
I don't care how we do it. I would like to engage, and the reason is that this issue. There are a lot of issues that are local to Thurston County, and we know everything we need to know, and we make our decisions, and that's that. There are other issues where we're connected to our larger communities. We're part of the state of Washington. We're neighboring counties with our other, local jurisdictions. It's kind of like the airport issue. We don't want an airport in Thurston County necessarily, but in order to really make that decision, we have to sort of understand what the needs of our state are. And it's the same with the prison system. I don't think, I agree with Commissioner Hutchings. I felt like I had the information I needed. I don't expect to change my mind, but it's relevant for me to know what the prison system looks like statewide. I don't honestly know, I don't want to build more prisons in this state necessarily. I think we can adopt policies that would avoid that, but I have really no idea what the needs are at the very larger 30,000 foot level. And I'm very happy to engage with our officials at the state level just to get that information. It certainly can't hurt us to know how the different systems, we have a complicated system of multi-jurisdictional government and different layers, and understanding how those different layers intertwine is very important for us to do our jobs accurately. So this is an issue where there is a connection between the state, the regional needs and our local needs. And so I would like to have that conversation. I don't care whether it's Zoom, in person, whether it's this summer or next fall or next winter, but I think it's an important conversation to have.
I agree. That's an important conversation to have if it's the overarching, and I'm not opposed to building prisons if the need of the state is there and we've got property, but I'm not in favor of putting it within walking distance of a primary, elementary, or high school. Mm-hmm. So there might be a larger conversation, but I would welcome Secretary Sinclair if he would like to show up. And I don't care if it's Zoom or not. It doesn't matter. It's still open and public, and we get the word out. Anything further on that, Gary, before we move on? We got to get to 2 executive sessions.
So I think Commissioner Menser did an excellent job articulating my concerns as well.
So what I'm hearing is I will schedule a meeting, staff will schedule a meeting with the secretary for later this year. And at that point, we'll see how the whole environment moves on, whether it's in person or continue to be a Zoom. But we'll schedule something.
Thank you. The second item, operational flexibility, we're going to put that on hold because that may become a moot point depending on our executive sessions.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, sir.
So that, no public testimony to follow up on, or is there, Romero?
No, I'd just like to highlight and very briefly, and I know the commissioners have received a lot of emails, as I have as well, related to the considerations that you have on the budget reductions for this year. And I know the county employees are eager, are concerned, as they would like to hear a lot of questions being answered. And those questions varies from as to where we are versus additional recommendations the board has already addressed and considered. I just want to perhaps use this venue to send a message to county employees that I will be sending an email to all county employees after the board decides on what the budget reductions will be for 2020. As you have been working since just about April on some of the different options, and it has evolved as to where we are, and perhaps will continue to evolve after the executive session that you have later this morning. So I know the county employees would like to get an email from me. I get it, I understand it, but at this point, I cannot send an email because I don't have a concrete direction by the board because the situation is evolving. And you, as county commissioners, also are hearing a lot of feedback, not just from employees, but also from your fellow elected officials, as to how you continue to adjust and perhaps do the best possible decisions that you have in front of you related to addressing the gaps on the revenue in this year. I just want to state that it's not easy, the journey that you have embarked and the decisions they're about to make. And again, as soon as the board makes some final determinations and decisions, I will send an email to county staff outlining the gist of your decisions.
Thank you for that. And I would add, besides the employees being, and even the electeds being, having interest and concern, they're anxious, Many of our employees are fearful, and some are flat angry or scared. And so, thank you for putting that out. And we still have tough decisions to make. We, as a board, need to act on this, and that's what we're heading in to do. So, are we ready to enter into an executive session?
Yes, if you don't mind, before we close the live feed, if you can outline the RCWs of the two executive sessions. The first one, I will expect it only lasts for maybe 15 minutes.
Okay.
And the other executive session, perhaps an hour. So if you can tell the public the RCWs related to that, that would be great.
I'm going to do that right now. We're entering into an executive session pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 subsection D to review negotiations on the performance of publicly bid contracts when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood of increased costs. This is the Regional Housing Council Agreement, and Commissioner's action may follow, and this should last about 15 minutes. I have just about nearly 11:15 now. So will somebody flip that door to the
Yeah,
sign
and can you announce the next executive session as well, because we will not coming back live.
Oh, good, thank you. And so then following that, we'll have an executive session on the authority of the board pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 subsection I to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation or possible or potential litigation to which the agency budget cuts, and Commissioner's action may follow, and that executive session should last about an hour.
Yeah, thank you, sir.